We're back, another episode, and I'm here to catch you up on all things this week. I've been going down to anti-gravity. I'm here with me and Rudy. Where is she gone? She's somewhere in this camera. There you are. We're just out in Stockport in the sun. I don't know why I'm wearing a jumper. It's way too warm for this. Maybe in my head I just still think it's winter. I see a little bit of a dark sky at the moment. I think, it's going to go back to being winter, but clearly not. So, what's been going down this week? So, we had a lot of meetings, some hopeful good kick-off meetings and stuff, but ultimately the big thing that's kind of happened this week has been a lot of networking events. It's been good. I've been getting out to quite a few of them. So one that we had on Wednesday was a very AI-focused networking event within the tech sector, where I went along, I knew some friendly faces, which was cool, and just talked about like mythos and just AI in general, and just, yeah, I mean, they even said in the talk it's getting a bit of an old topic now, talking about so much AI, but it is ever prevalent and ever sort of, becoming the norm, I suppose. So what do they cover? A lot of things about just sort of processes and how people are using them, and how a lot of companies are just using these AI tools either incorrectly or not at all. I think it's a statistic of like 75% of Americans don't actually like AI, and I think there's just a really tough uphill battle for people adopting it in the companies. But the main thing I kind of got from it is that how many people are using different AI tools within the companies, and it means that a lot of confidential information is just going off to databases over in America or China. And if you look at like a law firm, for example, it's not a great look to kind of basically just put confidential data online for everyone to see. So obviously not for everyone to see, but it is going and sitting in a database somewhere, so it can be a little bit dangerous. I think there was like a big crazy moment where there was a show of hands of who knows where your data goes, and no one in the room could answer. We use ChatGPT quite a bit. If I'm honest, mainly for spell checking for me, which is because I'm a dyslexic mess. And honestly, I wish I had this tool back when I first started and was spelling artwork wrong all the time on my artworking jobs. Oh, it would have saved me so much headache, but here we are anyway. So I mean, we're quite lucky because we pay for quite a big premium subscription package to keep everything kind of locked in, all things AG. But either way, we don't really put anything confidential in there. And I suppose as a creative business, we don't really have much confidential stuff unless we're working on a brand who's about to launch, and even then we'd be very cautious of what we put into it. And I think just across the board, a lot of businesses are just putting any data willy-nilly into it, and there's just a lot of confusion there, and it's just not doing too great. So that was the big kind of takeaway there, is just a lot of like people not really taking to it or adopting it. But ultimately the really good thing is it's probably the first time I've been to an AI event where it's not been phrased as sort of Skynet or the next big thing that's going to wipe out everything, or it is starting to be rephrased as a tool, which is really good, because that is ultimately what it is. It is just a tool to help us get work done, and I think people are starting to come around to that, and the pendulum's starting to swing the other way, which is really, really good and really positive. The other thing, just speaking about AI and design, I guess, is our partners, Barrington SEO, did a really, really good post this week all about lovable websites. So I know quite a few people who've used Lovable. They've said it's really easy, they've really enjoyed using it, and it's been able to deliver them a website really quickly. I've toyed around a little bit with Lovable, but I've mainly kind of been playing about with a bit of Replit. What I didn't know, and what Barrington found out, which was pretty alarming, is that there's no SEO on these websites. These websites go up, and we had our developers check a few Lovable websites, and there's like about 5 lines of code that Google can see, which means that it's not indexing for anything, because Google's only reading 5 lines. The rest of it's all JavaScript, so it's not great. Put a website live and then it can't be found, then it doesn't really work for your business, does it? And if Google can't find it, AI certainly can't find it. So that's a pretty big alarm bell, and it was a really interesting read. And I think if you're currently on the process of like building a Lovable website or a Replit website, I'd just be cautious and just make sure that you're using it, and not trying to make sure, when you put it live, you don't want to rely too much on the lead side of things, because I don't think that's going to be very profitable there. There are tools that we found that can help, but a lot of them are paid tools. And you know, when it comes to SEO, there's a lot of stuff you can do yourself to boost your own SEO. But with Lovable, I don't think you're kind of locked in there with them, and you're kind of at their mercy, effectively. But the other thing that was kind of crazy is how they said out of, I think it was 100 websites, I think it might have been 83 of those websites that they checked, of these Lovable websites, had exactly the same design. So they're not doing anything different, cutting through any noise or doing anything bold. They're just blending in, aren't they? But it also ultimately depends what kind of product you're trying to sell, I suppose. But if you want to get real returns, you kind of need something different, and certainly need something that's got SEO. So I think the world of web design is still going to go strong for a little bit longer anyway, until at least, you know, I think ultimately, I was going to say that until Lovable gets better, but even still, I think you need people who can understand the AI code to be able to plug the AI code together with other AI code, because otherwise you're kind of stuck up a river without an oar, really. As for the second event, now that was completely different. It was called Social Chaos, and it was so much fun. I'm a big extrovert. I absolutely love going to, I'm sorry about that, just love going to like, you know, a networking event where I don't know anyone, and I can just go in like, you know, the extrovert in me just loves it. So the way this event worked is everyone came in, sat down, and it was like speed networking. So you sit, you talk to someone for like a minute, you know, sort of say what your business is, a little bit about yourself, and then they do the same, and then you move around the room. What was so good about this is it stops the kind of dance that I had with a lot of networking events, where you kind of go in, you literally spend about 10 to 15 minutes kind of talking about your business, what you do, trying to get an understanding of theirs, going into all the nitty gritty. And that is good, and there's nothing wrong with that, and you can build really good connections from that. But it's always a bit salesy, and even though you have fun whilst doing it, it's the way that this was done means you get the sort of like the nitty gritty out of the way pretty fast and quick. Everyone in the room then now knows what you do, and you can just start talking to people and have a laugh, and, you know, making a connection with someone past the sort of business side of things, which was really good. Then they took us downstairs, and we had like a drag show caberet, which was amazing, and I just really, really valued it. I talked to like a watch manufacturer, a fizzy pop company, and a few other like businesses as well, all very different businesses, but ultimately it was just fun, and it was just a different way of doing things. And I wish more networking events were kind of like that you could just go in, say what you do to the whole room, and then kind of just crack on with the sort of connections and having fun, really. So yeah, that was really, really good. And then to finish off the week, yesterday I say we because it's me and Rudy, both went on a really, really nice hike with a good friend James Connell. He's my mentor and has been for years. I think I've talked about him before. He's just an incredible human being. Has been an immense help and support to me over the years. He basically put a post out years ago saying he was looking for someone to mentor. I absolutely jumped on the opportunity, and we've been thick as thieves ever since, really. On top of just being a genuinely brilliant human, he's just such a great like business mind and creative mind. The real sort of tag team of both, and that's kind of where I aspire to be. And I think with his help, I've really sort of gravitated towards that, becoming that. So yeah, so that was kind of the week in a nutshell, alongside obviously some tenders. Like, it is tender season at the moment, so just loads of tenders going on, and we've just been smashed. We've got like a big brand kicking off. We've got a workshop on Friday, and then we're fully into a new brand as well, which is really exciting. But one thing I wanted to kind of touch on before finishing this video was I was talking to this fizzy drinks brand, and one thing they mentioned, which was really cool, was we had a big chat about challenger brands and how that's become a big thing that's kind of come up at the moment. So what is a challenger brand? A brand that's normally quite small, scrappy, a little bit of a startup, kind of like us. What they're trying to do is they're not trying to focus on one business and they're challenging that. They're more like challenging the sector and trying to do something really different there. How they do that is they challenge through sort of position and tension. So they're really creating a big splash in the space. And The kind of 5 ways that they do that are that they have a strong opinion on something. So what their brand is focused on is around doing something really different to the sector. You know, for example, on YouTube yesterday, I came across a guy who was doing a chewing gum brand where he talked about how the chewing gum wasn't going to have any plastic in it because apparently all the chewing gum brands at the moment have plastic, which is horrible. So we're all chewing plastic. So that's quite a strong opinion. That's something to really gravitate your brand around. And the second one is knowing who your clear enemy is with the chewing gum brand. Obviously, it was Extra and Wrigley's were their sort of main competitor. So we talked about this startup chewing gum brand as a good example of a sort of challenger brand. They've got a clear sort of strong opinion on something that's really important to them and what they're kind of gravitating their business around. You've got the clear enemy that they're after in the sense that they're trying to go for the chewing gum industry as a whole and trying to do something different and really shake that up. But the third thing that's really important is visual identity, because a challenger brand also can't just blend in with everyone. They're not really a challenger if they look like everyone else. If this chewing gum brand, for example, just released and looked exactly like Wrigley's, not really changing anything there, not really challenging anything, not doing anything different. So it's really important to do something really bold, which obviously really aligns with what we do at Anti-Gravity. But you know, and we've been talking about this for a while, but we've been trying to get a lot of brands to almost be challenger brands in their own category by making sure they do things that are bold, that stand out, make some noise in that category. Like the recent work we did with peak costs, that was, I know I keep going back to as well, but that's a really good example of what happens when you can make some noise, right? If you were this chewing gum brand, you'd be creating something that's really bold, the packaging would be really different, and you'd, you know, maybe really double down on the fact there's no plastics and have plastic-free packaging as well, like in its entirety. Final 2 points, which I guess you can kind of combine together, is about having a really emotionally focused core and making sure you've got a tone of voice that's also different. Like all those brand pillars and brand positioning and everything has to really elevate you to be different and to make that noise in the category and become a challenger to that category. And the sort of last one is obviously around focused community. So a lot of brands at the moment, I think it's becoming bigger and bigger. Obviously YouTube and everything like that, you're building fans and you're building community across these social channels, but it's actually really, really important to do it as a challenger brand as well. You know, when you build this product and build an amazing brand that really stands out and is challenging everything that it needs to challenge, you also then need to create that community. And one way you can do that is by building a bit of a wish list for your product. So if you're the chewing gum brand, you build a website that's got like an email sign up, you start driving some real social, sending it out to influencers, start to build some community and hype around it. A good example of this, because you know, compared to the sort of like chewing gum one, is chicken wine. They actually did a really good job of building community around the brand because someone on TikTok actually called it chicken wine. And you all know what I mean when I say chicken wine, right? They called it chicken wine on TikTok and it stuck. And they've now got a community of people that love it and call it chicken wine, and they changed the packaging of one of their bottles of wine to chicken wine. So you see what I mean? Then that's them playing into the community, building that, and now they just... So, professional as ever, my phone died, and as I was mid-walk and mid-talk, can be a bit of a heavy interjection here, but to summarise basically what I was saying earlier, yeah, you need a strong opinion, you need a clear enemy, really, really recognisable brand identity, a emotional tone, and a focused community. That's kind of what you need to be a challenger brand. And I encourage everyone to be that. Like, why not? That's how you stand out, right? You know, why wouldn't you want to be the cereal to Kellogg's or the Olipop to a Coke or an Oatly to a Cravendale or a Monzo to normal banks? Because all those brands, especially those last ones, went on to be big and do big things because they stood out and were different. But ultimately, what it all is about, it's just about being a bit brave with your branding and just being willing to stand out and do something and take the risk. Because it's actually, I say take the risk, but ultimately isn't a risk in the end. If you do your research and know your target audience, you can really stand out. Anyway, that's a wrap for this week. See you in the next one.